Good morning, everybody. Welcome to April 23rd, the Leader Forum's meeting. I hope everybody's been good and healthy and working on getting to the end of the year. I think for some of us, we've only got, 20 some days left of school, and others we're going, 30 something. We go into June.
Longer, 31, I think we have here.
So fun times. Just a review of the agenda. We can have open discussion. We don't have to keep to the minutes allotted time, but just really kind of want to open the floor and welcome. I think there's a few people who are in here that haven't been here in a long time. So welcome. And thanks for everybody who's kind of been in here and keeping this going. Anyways, how's it been? How's the first month since I think we last met in mid-March or just to the end of March? So we've all been in school for about a month. What's that look like for everybody? Anybody want to start it off?
It looks nuts.
The kids are comfortable again.
Yeah, I'm sure. For Patrick, you haven't been in school at all. So you want to talk a little bit about what Flagstaff's been doing?
Well, we came back in on the 22nd. Which was kind of like right in line with the governor's order of you have to go back to school. I haven't hired a driver in a year. I'm looking at, I've got one finally that will be starting on the 3rd in class, but I haven't hired a driver in a year. And with the attrition, juggling everything, everybody in the office is driving. Every mechanic who can drive is driving. And,
They just keep coming back.
Yeah. So, we're looking at load counts going, it almost doesn't matter that we were trying to do, 12 students to a bus kind of thing. We're collapsing routes left and right just so that we have at least a spare driver when somebody goes out, not when somebody goes out. And I'm doing I got a whole list of routes right now that I'm working on collapsing and send an email to notifications. And we're going to do a ride and drive next week to try to do some of that recruiting. And,
Good.
And hopefully I was going to check with the city. They have the Touch a Truck event. They didn't have it last year, but they get all the cool bomb squad vehicles and the fire trucks from the airport and that. And last year was going to be our first year to participate in it and use that as a recruiting tool. But with COVID, they shut it down. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's been a rough year and it's been pretty stressful for us, but we're getting through it, and everybody's kind of doing 110% regardless of, whether they're driving their normal route or they're doing, just something extra to help. It's been amazing. The people who are left are really doing, 110%.
Right. Isn't that what reminds us why we love this work is when you look around and it's like, wow, everybody's stepping up and you finish a crazy day or stretch like that. And you're like, whoo, we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Armando, how's things going?
Hey.
So,
Well, I'm still short drivers.
You're kidding.
After never being short, of course, but we're managing. I mean, I have 19 bus drivers right now. So, but we're doing it. We're doing meal deliveries. Yesterday was the first day I actually had to call some parents and tell them your bus is not coming. And
because of quarantine?
it was our South Phoenix route, as a matter of fact. And so, you know what? They're out of district. You're the first ones to get cut. So.
Is that because you didn't have a driver or because of quarantine?
No, we did not have a driver. I
Got it.
had 12 people off yesterday. So,
Ouch.
nine of them were drivers. So that means I only had 10 people left. And we, like Patrick said, we just consolidate. And, Ryan knows that unless he wants to drive, he better start consolidating some buses. And so he's done a very good job at that. When I come in the morning, I start splitting routes, and you do this, and, you know, everybody's good. And no complaints or anything. We get it all done. But, you know, we just couldn't do that yesterday. And then I was the only one here because the mechanics were all on the road and everything. And it manages. We didn't get no complaints either. So,
You know, I
Hey,
think it's
Armando, when you're consolidating, are you breaching that COVID attempt to keep numbers down?
yes.
Consolidating
But see,
within
our
that?
buses aren't full either. So I have one route that has probably 20 kids, and the rest of them are all 6 or less,
I mean, even with the consolidating?
even with the consolidating.
wow.
Because a lot of parents are still not sending their kids to school, and we never know. You know, we have no idea that. So, because out of the 2,200 kids we have left in the district, I think last night's board meeting, they were telling us we only had like 1,700 that are actually coming in school. So.
Yeah, so I think that comes down to the word, what's it called? Just when possible, or the words when possible that you can do that. I mean, we compressed 14 routes this year, down 77 down to 61, so that we could, you know, meet our shortage and our obligations. And we've got several routes that are right now running 50, you know, 45, 50,
yeah.
55 students on a bus. And, you know, I mean, it just was what it was, right? I mean, we've made it known, but there was no requirement, like I think what Sarah had over at Cartwright, there was no requirement for this seating arrangement on the bus that we're following, where we tried to target no more than 40, but, you know, since fourth quarter has started, we've had almost, I think I've got 5,000 students loaded to our buses, but we're only doing probably 70% of that. So, I mean, it's really just, you know, what I guess what your district is okay with.
Well, and then either you make the adjustment, you are strong with your mitigation and your masking, at least on buses, even though things are changing, or, right, you extend your walk boundary, or I mean, there has to be something has to happen.
We have 6,000 assigned to buses. We're running between 2,800 and 3,100 every day. Some buses are up in the 40s and 50s. I'm short 20 drivers as of right now. Normally I would have a total of 58 routes this year, and we're running like 41. So yeah, and that's just doubling. And I've got a couple that are turning because I can't even double those. So it's just become, it is what it is. And you know, Armando, I've gotten close a few times where I've had to put the notice out and tell parents, hey, I've got a bus not showing up today. But luckily they've been able to finagle something so we can all drive and get out there.
My choice was, do I take the route that only has 6 kids, because that's how many we're bringing in from Roosevelt, or do I do the route that has 50 kids total all day long? So that was an easy call.
Yeah.
You guys, I'll call you and tell you to bring your own kids in. So
yeah, I'll be here this weekend doing some more. I need some more special needs drivers to move over to Gen Ed. I asked for volunteers, and guess what I got?
0.
So there will be mandatory moves made. It is what it is. So
Well, I think those are some of the things that you can get creative with. I know a couple years ago when we went from 3 bells to 2 bells, this was before I got here, but they had contracted with van service to do special needs so they can move special needs drivers over to drive regular buses. So just because, you know, bus service maybe isn't necessarily available, you know, there might be some sort of van service that can handle smaller group populations that can, you know, can help with the shortage in the meantime. It does cost money, right? I mean, it's pretty expensive, and, you know, per quarter, depending on how many drivers, you're probably talking about $100,000 to, you know, $200,000 a quarter, depending on how many drivers you're trying to contract out.
But I do think the ESSER funds would apply to driver gaps directly related to the COVID situation.
Yeah.
One thing we did, and I don't know how you guys run these, you know, we have our after school activities, so sports practice and clubs and things like that, we have those late runs that we do. I cut out everything in town. If you didn't live at least, well, in some cases they were a little closer, but in a lot of cases we're talking about students who lived at least, 20, 30 miles from school. If you live that close, you don't get a ride anymore. And I was able to cut out a little more than half of my activity runs. The consequence of that was some of the schools just cut out their activities altogether, the middle schools, which I wasn't really expecting, but I still, I've got like 6 activity routes now, and I normally have like 15. And it just, we were getting to that point where something was going to break. And, do I tell a student who lives way out in Loop or way out in Cameron that they don't get a ride home on the activity and, so sorry, but your bus doesn't show up now? Or do I just say, hey, you kids who live closer in town, your parents have to pick you up, and, we'll take care of those students who live really far away. So that's what we did.
Anybody else want to chime in with how their first month's going?
The
Brian?
kids are getting comfortable. We're seeing discipline and behaviors act up on the buses now all
Oh,
of
yeah.
a sudden.
Mhm.
Lots of videos being pulled all of a
Yeah,
sudden.
same.
Haven't done that in a year.
Brian, what do you got?
So yeah, a lot of the same, it's been a rough start with the reduced capacities on the buses. We've had to create extra routes where we wouldn't normally have that many buses. But we've also run into the situation where the schools have given us lists of what students are going, and maybe only half of them are going. So we've started collapsing routes to be able to, to decrease the mileage to a level that is more realistic.
Sure.
Tommy, much the same way. I'm down about 10 drivers now. People that didn't want to come back because of COVID, or retired, or found other jobs. I've had several that have found other CDL jobs, driving concrete trucks or grease trucks, things like that. They're working a Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, and realize that they don't have to do that split shift anymore.
Mhm.
But Tommy, same thing with you, not being able to get volunteers. People coming, we need more hours. We need more hours. We haven't worked all this time. And so I create opportunities, and
They don't want
nobody
them.
volunteers.
Nope.
We've
They want
even,
the hours on their terms.
yeah. Even with the trips, we work with the sports department to do the sports trips in-house. And then I've only got, we'll have some 17, 20 trips one afternoon, and only 5 drivers sign up.
What are you doing in that? I mean, how are you just telling them they have to contract it out?
Yeah, but even contractors are full too. So a lot of times trips just get canceled, or
Wow.
they have to figure out how to use campus vans or minibuses.
Can you make the trip part of the, like, I don't know, so-and-so high school's volleyball is part of this route? Does that change it for you perhaps?
The problem with our association is to change a schedule, and we have to do it in writing and give 2 weeks notice. So I'm really not able to do that on a daily basis, where trips, one day we'll have 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And
Yeah. So when I had high school, just a suggestion, I had specific trip drivers. They didn't drive routes. If they didn't have anything going on, they could be a cover driver for a route, but they were my 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. trip drivers, and they got an extra money per hour for mountains and late nights. It might be a solution for you, something to think about.
yeah, and I've taken that idea to leadership too, to try and get those types of positions created, but has not come to fruition yet. So, but we're always working on different ideas, and,
Sure.
and just trying to make it through.
Nice.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else want to chime in before we switch gears to the next topic?
And his wife's already taken off.
Nope. All right, I'm gonna mute that one.
Well,
And,
the biggest thing for us at Agua Fria was, like I mentioned in the last meeting, routing by actual ridership instead of just eligible.
Yeah.
That's helped us collapse enough routes to where we don't have all of our office staff driving every day. It's just on the days where we get blown out of the water with sports trips and stuff like that when office is out there, or, you know, if a lot of people get sick, because I think eligible, we're sitting right around 4,000 eligible riders. And in a normal year, it's somewhere between 1,600 and 1,900 actual riders. And right now we're running around 1,000 daily riders. So we were able to cut off a lot of that excess and, you know, deactivate stops where there were no kids and are no kids registered. That's been really helpful.
Got it. I mean, I think that's definitely something that should continue and probably been positive that's come out of COVID is trying the increase of understanding to the district leadership that says we need to know who's on the bus at all times,
Where were they?
have registration for the bus, and all, you know, all these other things and processes that really have been needing an update, a severe update for a very, very long time. So hopefully, you know, we can keep this momentum coming out of COVID and try and, you know, continue to update those processes.
Agreed.
So what's everybody been, I mean, obviously the governor came out and rescinded the mask requirement for school districts, kind of putting it back on school districts to decide what they want to do. Has anybody's district come out and dropped it all together or made any plans for any type of change yet?
No.
And Mesa just is phasing in their optional next week. It'll be required next week, then optional on the 3rd. I think Combs is now optional. I think Florence was going to make the decision. They were probably going to follow Combs and go optional, but I think those are the only big ones that have done it.
Yeah, and they have. My son attends in Florence, and they starting Monday have the option. And they also opened up graduation to no minimum, which I thought was interesting.
Phoenix L had our board meeting last night, and it was decided that we would continue the mask mandate in district because of the county metrics. Our zip codes are rising again, and we only have 2 zip codes in the green. The rest are in yellow, and some of those are high yellow, probably getting ready to move into red. So we're going to continue with masks.
And no surprise, Cartwright is the same. Our governing board meeting was last night. So COVID Queen is still the mask police.
Yeah, we're the same. We're keeping our mask mandate in place. And we've already started to have some issues where parents are sending their children without a mask. And the drivers are telling them, no, they still have to wear a mask. But governor says I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly running into a interesting situation, and I think, you know, obviously the outlier districts seem to, you know, kind of getting off that pretty quickly, but I think everybody in town otherwise is going to ride it out for the rest of the school year at least. I know ours is going, I think they said was going to go into summer school as well, that it would still be a requirement. So but they did send, our district leadership did send out a survey to the staff and community asking for preference. So, you know, it's really going to be dependent on, I guess that, I don't really know. I mean.
Well, for Flagstaff, I know they are going to be discussing it at our upcoming board meeting on Tuesday as far as the district goes. But I believe that as far as transportation goes, isn't there or was there going to be a federal order that all transportation required?
Yeah, there is a TSA order, something at the federal level that says all airplanes, city public transit, any type of buses are still required to have them. So, you know, that is the other, right, as we all navigate this and we're all trying to go through, I don't really know how that plays in. I don't know that our governor or leadership, I mean, obviously he's saying one thing in the ADE and Maricopa County or state health officials are saying something completely different. So,
right.
You know, obviously everybody's fighting each other right now.
Yeah, we're masked till the end of the year and we carry masks on every bus.
Yeah.
So if a kid comes to the bus without it, he's handed and told he's got to wear it.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I don't see that changing through the end of the year and probably not through extended summer, through June.
Our district
Anybody's,
did away with masks already. They just did away with them.
How's it going?
I'm not happy about it.
how's your staff feel about it?
They're not happy about it either. We still have masks on the buses and the drivers wear masks, but it's not enforced here anymore at all.
Interesting.
Has
Yeah.
anybody had any issues still getting PPE equipment?
As a matter of fact, we just had something like 1,000 cases of hand sanitizer and another 500 cases of masks donated to the district by Kroger. And that was yesterday. So, I mean, we're like overflowing with stuff. Our drivers daily are coming in getting boxes of masks for the kids because we've turned into like the mask supplier for everybody in the district.
Anybody else want to add to mask update? Maybe that's down in Yuma. Ron, anybody, what do you guys got going on down there? Ron's still here.
Yeah, nothing too much different than what I've been hearing that is going on at the other districts. We're pretty much right on that same course. From everything that we've talked about, the lack of driving staff, the doubling up runs, the consolidating routes together, we're probably going to do masks for the end of the year yet, like I've been hearing most are. So we're pretty much right on that same course.
Got it. Yeah, I think we're all ready to get this year over with, right? So
It's been the long one, hasn't it?
yeah, long but fast, right?
Just
I mean,
since
it seems
February,
like
it feels like we've been doing this for 12 months already.
Like instead of the 90 days of May, it's like the 900 days of May.
Well, with all the changes, it's like every time there's a change for us, it's like starting the first day of school all over again. So
Sure.
we've done that like 4 or 5 times in the year. So, but I would want to reiterate too that I can't remember who brought this up, but the district administration does have a little different perspective about things that we've had to deal with on an ongoing basis all the time. They're finally kind of seeing it because it's more of a direct impact to their level of participation in it. So I think that that's one positive thing that's come out of this too.
That is positive. I love to always invite them to see it through our lens. Even on our best day, it's organized chaos, right?
Yeah. Yep. Because what we're talking about here, even though it's amplified, isn't anything different we don't do on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
So obviously we have what, 20 some days, 30 some days left of school. What does everybody's end of the year process look like? Does anybody want to share kind of how you wind down the school year and how you, I guess, so to speak, put buses to sleep and, send your bus driver, evaluations. Does anybody do, an evaluation process to verify if they get a contract into next year? Or do they have continuing, just ongoing contracts? Anybody wants to kind of start with what their end of the year process looks like?
Well, I think the first question.
We've already done evaluations and I didn't care this year. They weren't here most of the time. They were assigned out to a school. I literally I did a Word document, wrote a little message about how attendance, we were excused if you said it was COVID. So we have people with 30 absences and stuff, and I just said, it's not worth my time. You are worth my time. Love you. See, next year. Paste, everybody meets, put them out. And I mean, literally, it was ridiculous, right? Because what are you going to recommend? You get rid of a driver who has 30 absences that claims 15 were due to COVID, either to themselves or family members. So I didn't find it real fruitful, but we have to do the process. So we do our evals. And then we're not shutting down this year. We're extending through June. So we'll do our mileage, at the end of the year on the last day. And we'll do our mileage on the 30th or June 1st for the annual, for the state, but we'll still be rolling. So it's, real end of the year yet,
Separation's gonna be
it-
short for sure.
yeah, it'll be 4 weeks or something that things sit. So we'll jump them if we have to when, August comes back around.
Yeah. Carrie, what do you got?
So here we did that process back in February at our February board meeting. So we've issued our new contracts for next year in March. So all of our drivers are basically coming back. We didn't do the evaluation process because of the COVID situation, but I did have like a one-on-one with everybody, like, hey, this is the deal, this is what's happening. So we're good going in, and we're closing school on May 21st as usual.
No summer school for you, Carrie?
We have summer school that'll be starting in June.
Got it.
Yeah, but we're only doing 3 weeks in June. We start summer school June 7th, but our regular school year will end on May 21st because we started school on August 3rd. Everybody all virtual on day one. So we wasn't like a lot of districts that prolonged that date. We started straight out.
Nice.
Thank you. Tommy?
We just did our normal evaluation process, but I mean, it was like, what is there really to evaluate? We had to do it twice this year, by December and then again by April 15th. But like Eric said, I mean, was there really much to evaluate when they weren't with you most of the year? And it was just this little piece. So, I mean, it was just a basic. The question I had about, your shutdown process, are we really shutting them down and putting them asleep? I mean, we're looking, normally we do 200 kids for summer school every year. They're looking at inviting 800 to 1,000 this year.
Yeah.
So instead of just 4 buses for summer school, we're probably going to have 12 or 13 going out. And the next part for me is begging people to work this summer, because I'm very lucky to have staff that will do almost anything you ask for. But when it comes to summer, they run away from Big Yellows. They want their time away. And last couple of years, we were begging people to come drive for summer school. So we're going to do 4 campuses for 4 hours a day, same dates that Carrie has for Roosevelt. And then in July, we'll do our special needs summer school. And we have, of course, our out of district that goes all summer for ESY as well. But I'm going to put out the letters. I'll be here this weekend kind of catching up on stuff, but putting out the letters to everyone next week that asks, what are your intentions next year? Are you retiring, leaving? Are you coming back? And then we'll do our normal shutdown with the cleaning and inspection, but that's about it. I mean, nothing out of order. We can't do our big barbecue that we do the last day of school every year, but where we buy all the food, hamburgers, hot dogs, because there's only like 40 minutes between when they get back in the morning until they start taking the kids home because of the extra early release. So we can't do that this year.
What about, does anybody go through a bid process, or will they just keep the routes they have this year?
We do it in at the orientation normally in August. But it's all up in the air this year, depending on who comes in to take over next year.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, we're doing the bid process in our startup in July. So when we have our startup, they'll do the bid process to start all over, So like this school year, they've went through three bid processes for routes already, since we actually started and with in person. So they're like expecting it.
I mean, Avery and I, because we feed into Avery's district, with the growth that's going out here with the new communities and everything, it's not worth bidding at the end of the year because routes are going to look so different in 2 weeks and then in 4 weeks. And by the time school starts, we could have 15 more routes than what we expected because of neighborhoods moving in and popping up everywhere.
Right,
literally.
right. Yeah, we're actually blessed because we're getting able to cut out some old routes next year because we're stopping the weird boundaries because of our newest school, Canyon View. This will be the first year where we're running without having to run new boundaries and old boundaries.
I hate the process they do that way. It is the
but yeah,
weirdest
because
process.
Because of that growth,
we're looking at
adding our newest school in probably about 3 years.
Yeah.
Our sixth high school, probably in about 3 years because of that growth.
Yep.
Interesting. Anybody not bid? I think I saw Dysart says they don't bid.
We don't bid either unless we open a new school or something like that. we roll our drivers forward if they choose. They have the opportunity at orientation to put their route back in the mix. And the only thing we post is if a driver doesn't return or we add something new. But we keep everything static year in and year out, unless they choose to put it up for bid. And then we just bid out those, 3 or 4 routes or whatever, unless we add a new school and it wipes the whole map or something, like when we did EFGA and all that stuff. So
Ours change so much every year just because of the new communities or this or that and growth. So I mean, our routes never really look the same every year. So we just rebid every year.
Yeah, the drivers keep the same route number, but it doesn't mean they're going to have the same schools.
Yeah, they bid on the bus. That's what
Right,
they bid on. They want that bus.
Yeah.
That's all they care about. They don't care where the bus goes. That's the bus I want. That's my bus. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then this year is just so weird for us because we're only really having 3 weeks where we're shut down this summer, because our summer feeding program starts up the week after school lets out. And the week after that, our summer school starts, and that runs all through June. And then we have the first 3 weeks of July where nothing's running. And then we have our drivers come back for in-service.
Oh, yeah, crazy.
Flagstaff doesn't really have a bid process. It's pretty static unless somebody leaves, just like Eric's. And we haven't had a ton of growth in different areas. There is some new building going on right now. So there's probably boundary shifts that are going to happen over the next few years. But it's, if there's a driver and there's an open route, that's pretty much what they get, at least here.
ISART is starting up middle schools for the next school year. So all the routes are going to probably look very different, but we'll post those routes, all the routes and the buses that go with them and what schools they are going to serve. And the drivers have the option to either keep their route or turn it in for bid.
So Karma, did you guys have K-8 schools and then high school?
We had K-8 in high school. So we're taking 8 of the campuses and creating 4, I think it's 5th through 8th. It might be 4th through 8th grade, and 4 K through 4th grade, yeah. We're doing 2 sessions for summer school this year. They're doing a June session and a July session, and it's going to be 12 campuses, 4 high school campuses and 8 K through 8 campuses. So and 3 tiers, because so many of the kids, need to make up those grades and those credits for the high school students. So we're just looking at probably running a lot. So they've opened up. We've never had positions. It's just been supplemental for summer school, but now we're opening up positions for bus aides and bus drivers, and they're going to pay them like $25 an hour if they want to sign up for summer.
Nice.
So hopefully that'll help us fill.
Our district's giving a
through the kids yet, so I don't even know how many are going.
Yeah, our district's giving a $500 stipend to anybody that works in our program to support summer school. So that's anybody at the school site, anybody that's transportation related, bus monitors, bus drivers, anybody who would not normally work through the summer is eligible for a $500 stipend.
All right, great.
Wow. My people only get the opportunity to work with me for another 2 months.
Well, that's an immediate reason to
That's the way we
run
are.
away, right?
Yeah.
And I don't bid either. They do what I tell them to drive.
He's being serious though, I believe.
I'm
Don't
being
you-
serious. I've
Yeah,
done that since I was at Madison.
Yeah,
They
don't you
drive
assign
whatever route I
driver or
tell
assign
them to
routes?
drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do here too. We assign buses and drivers. We don't do any kind of bid process. So
Exactly.
yeah.
So how do you determine, like, Ron, talk about your, what that looks like. How do you find, like, do you just know like what the route is and this driver's gonna be the best fit for them, or what does that look like?
Yep, that's pretty much what we do. We know our drivers, we know what their best capabilities are. We do accept letters of request. They might say, well, I want to do a regular ed bus, or I want to do special needs or something like that. That helps us determine in our selection process. But we sit down as a team, our routers and we do our own discipline here. So we, manage all the student management and student discipline. So I have the discipline liaison in with this team that we have for who we feel is best fit for what route. And we just go through that process and assign.
Now, do they keep it from year to year run, or does everybody go back into the pot, if you will, for the new year?
Yeah, just like you're saying, everybody back in the pot. We
Nice.
just look and see what's going to be the best fit for the year. Now, that doesn't mean we might change during the year when we have situations, or when there's a route that comes open during the year, we'll actually post it. It's not to bid on it, but to get the people, if they want to request to be assigned to that route, but then we still reserve that right and responsibility to just go ahead and assign it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've been doing the same thing in Cartwright.
Does anybody do like an interview process for special needs? Tommy?
I have done that in my past. And
It's a
they
good-
couldn't
it's a-
do
yeah.
special needs.
Well, it's a
unless
great
they were-
idea. Yeah, we don't practice it, but that's a great idea to have a little bit of a specific interview for that.
We only do that for our behavioral routes, those really tough.
Like ACEs or
routes,
Desert
yeah.
Police or something?
Southwest Behavioral ACEs, FBI within ACEs, those we assign, we sit down and talk to the drivers, say, do you understand? Do you know what you're going to be dealing with? What would you do with this? How do you handle that? And we assign those particular routes. We don't necessarily bid them. We may put a sheet up to say, are you interested? Would you like to be considered? That's it, though. We assign those routes because, I mean, you don't have any more problems on that than
Right.
they create themselves.
And for our special needs, a lot of it, we look at attendance because those are the routes that are harder to sub for. So we look at attendance. I've had gen ed drivers request them in the past and sat down, with them and said, look, until your attendance improves, this is not something we're considering.
Nice. Well, incentive, right?
Yeah.
In the past, when you talk about attendance, we have twice as many gen ed routes as we do sped routes, and we'll have the same number of sped drivers out on a given day as gen ed drivers. So essentially sped drivers tend to have, at least historically or in the past, have had twice the amount of absenteeism as gen ed drivers. And I think part of that is, they're dealing with a lot of, dealing with special needs kids takes a lot more out of you, I think, sometimes than dealing with the gen ed kids.
Do any of you have like a formal checklist for end of the year and what you're looking for in them closing out a bus and, paperwork? Is that something you would share with me? I would greatly appreciate it.
I'll
Sure.
add that to my email that I'm sending you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have something too. It's probably similar. Just how they clean their bus, taking the items that don't belong in there over time out of their bus, closing out their mailbox, if you will, whatever that all looks like, finishing up any training that has been online given to them.
Handing their badge in, handing their keys in, handing all the things that they need to, check in, their tire thumper, their trash cans, their, everything that's pretty much assigned to them at the beginning of the year gets pretty much checked back in, so we can kind of take a inventory of what we have. But color placards that we have on the little PVC placards on the side of the bus to indicate route color, that will get checked back in. So we run a checklist, and it's their responsibility to get it initialed, and then we have one person that finalizes, okay, this is along with their, the paperwork and their badge, that's their indication that they've done everything as far as fueling their bus, cleaning their bus. It's been inspected, it needs to be inspected at the end of the day. Unfortunately, we don't have it here, but it would be nice if the district would give drivers an extra day like they give for teachers, so that they have a non-transportation day at the end of the school year that is used for end of the year closeout. So that way it's not, waiting for them to go mop in the middle of the day and we inspect their bus and their bus gets trashed in the afternoon and they're like, yeah, well, it'll be there next year. Or
We do have that. We have that worked in.
Yeah, a lot of school districts do. I mean, when I was at Phoenix L, our drivers went, geez, yeah, 3 more weeks that they were still on contract. So we had them cleaning buses and doing summer school and all of those things. But it was definitely nice to be able to have that time with them, that they weren't required to be out there driving and focusing on that.
We give them the year-end checklist about 2 weeks before school's out, because the last day of school is their last day of contract. So they have time to do it, but they don't leave until that's all signed off. And there's different people that sign off. And then if their bus is trashed, it, could affect what they get to bid on for next year as well. But we also go, because we can't give money out for perfect attendance, I let perfect attendance bid first. And then after perfect attendance, then it goes by seniority for everything.
Ours is all done based on a 33-point evaluation score that they get. Their evaluation score coupled with their hire date next then determines their order of their bid process. But our drivers keep their routes forever unless they give it up. But we didn't bid last year, so we've got like 38 runs that are going to be up for bid this summer. So almost half of our routes that will be available for people to bid for this year. So it's going to be a lot of movement.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we bid for summer also. So at the end of the year, then the last week or two, when we have all the routes built for summer, we'll bid. The thing that we do differently for the summer routes than we do at the beginning of the year, we bid just by seniority, but we do a weighted seniority bid at the end of the year for summer routes, weighted with attendance. So, fewer than 5 absences will increase your standing on the bid list.
Yeah, and the nice thing about our evaluation process and not going by seniority date is that you have a bad year, your evaluation score comes way down, and all of a sudden somebody else might be getting, your summer work. So it really helped our culture here, in that everybody has a fair shake at getting other opportunities for work and routes. You guys are all funny in the chat. But, anywho, so we got 10 minutes to kind of wrap it up. I just want to open it to, we've kind of had this open discussion going, but it'd be nice if we could have maybe a few topics thrown out to discuss for next meeting. If there's anything, Sarah, you got your hand raised, go ahead.
Yes, I would like to, if you would share lead. I'm having a hard time in my shop, and would really like to talk about kind of a lead duties and maybe some job descriptions.
Sure.
So I've got some drama that I need to kind of straighten out moving into next school year. And
No.
I'd like to look at
Drama in the shop?
Drama?
The guys are worse than the women, man.
I will second that. In that,
I'm some feedback.
I'm so surprised at how much worse the shop is versus bus driver lounge culture. It's crazy.
It's bad. And then the other thing, Cartwright is adding the white fleet activity buses. So I'm really interested to listen about what your drug testing policy is on those vehicles, and kind of what your training looks like for those.
If they're not CDL, you have to keep them in a different pool for drug testing, but you can put them in a pool for that. I'm 100% behind that.
Yeah.
I'll send you what I have for White Fleet. We're instituting a White Fleet training program next year that I've already put together. I'll send that over. I'll put that out if anyone wants it to.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. We could definitely talk about it for next meeting. Anybody else got anything else that they want to maybe discuss for going into summer, going into next year?
It's sort of kind of redundant, but it's always a hot topic. Is just what does the summer hiring look like? So do you have trainers here all summer? And
does anyone have applicants?
Right? Is that on the fact? We do have a few applicants.
We had 2 interviews today with drivers.
Yeah, we have a few applicants and some starting, but
we're having a hard time. We interviewed one, he started, he rode the bus for 2 days and didn't show up again. Didn't want to do this. And it's hard to actually get an applicant in at all. So
not easy work, right?
Yeah, we have a job fair coming up on the 12th, combo us and food services. So we're hoping that we get some people to show up for that and get some applicants.
I can tell you my experience. I used to attend all the job fairs and do all that. And Avery, you were a part of it when we were together. And our experience was literally we'd get 10 hires, and 1 year later you'd have one of the 10.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the word of mouth, the local guy, is such a better percentage of retention. And you do a lot of work. And I get it. If you get 1 out of 10, everybody goes, oh, well, you had one. But it's a lot of work. And my experience is, especially if the job fair is off-site, when they go, oh, yeah, I'll drive over there and work every day. Then they come and experience the split shift, you know, from that address, and they come. I mean, I know I always say dumb stuff, but I had a horrible experience with that. I felt like it was a lot of time and effort for very little, you know, return. You know,
Right.
the offsite job fair thing. You know, I haven't done it in years and years.
I personally haven't been very successful with the job fairs themselves. I want to say kind of our 1 to 2 year retention rate of somebody who's actually gone into class and gotten their cert is probably about 50%. Actually, that's probably anybody who starts class is about 50% after 1 to 2 years. So I guess my retention's a little better. There aren't places they can leave to go to. I guess from here in Flagstaff, you know, we're a little more local, so to speak, a little more isolated. But I've also done interviews at, you know, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning just to see if people will show up.
I like that.
No, I mean, anything you can do to get a driver, I'm not poo-pooing it in any way whatsoever. Any way you can get a driver obviously makes sense. The job fair thing, that guy, whoa, hey, decent pay, shows up, starts training, whoa. Well, training will do 8 hours straight, right? I mean, that's you to, you know, microwave it. And all of a sudden they start the normal shift and, hello, where'd that guy go? You know, and and you know, it's hard to also, it's a shame that we can't be picky because the amount of exposure we are to the district, and we're not real picky if we're honest.
It's so funny.
It's horrible, man. It's so hypocritical and awful. I hate it.
I hate the fact that we're in that phase right now where we just need butts and seats.
Yeah.
You know, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, it was so nice being in that we could be very picky with who we hired to put behind the wheel. And again, in the blink of an eye, we've turned back into, I just need a butt and a seat. But how much do you really want to deal with after that interview when you know what's going to happen behind the wheel?
Sure.
But right now,
I'd almost rather be short than, you know, and just.
Exactly.
Agree.
Exactly. But how much stress is that putting on you?
And
to
safety.
do that? You know,
and
you got to take that.
HR.
You really want to do this
but
right
you
now?
know darn well that your tolerance is far greater right now than it's normally.
Absolutely right. You are absolutely
like I agree with you
Just
100%,
ask Wiley.
but it's like, holy smokes. Like I've had a guy who actually asked me in the interview when we give him a little scenario of a kid behavior and he goes, well, you can't hit him, right?
Oh, MG.
Well, that's about it. We're done. You gotta ask me. We're done. You know, I mean,
we follow up in that question.
Right now.
We follow up in that question that says we are a hands-off district, so that way we tee them up with it. They can't answer something stupid.
Yeah, but I want him to answer. If that's what comes to like, he wasn't joking. He was like, well, we can't hit him, right? No, you get, but we had a mechanic one time. I asked him, I said, hey, you know, it was kind of after all the technical stuff. I said, tell me what you bring to the table, man. What do you bring to the table? And he goes, food. Like,
oh no.
Like, and it's not a joke, dude. It wasn't a joke. I'm like, I'm all for jokes, but there was nothing after that, just food. I was like, okay. But anyways, I think we all know that. I think we're all in the same position and we all know how tough it is. And like I said, I was mad at Brian for a while. Brian jumped his rates for a while and everybody's jumping over to Phoenix Union. And here's Brian talking today about having to hire contractors to fill. It's a short-term solution. You got to be so very careful about what you pay because it only motivates for a short amount of time.
Throwing money
you get
is
what you get.
throwing money
But
is not
I
going to do
think
anything.
that, like, the district does not put an emphasis on the level of exposure of taking custody of a child, legal custody of 80 children, and driving down the road with your back turned. I mean, they just don't put value on that. Okay, I know it may not be teaching and I don't have all my doctorates and things hanging up with all the gold leaf on it, but if I screw up, what it does to that district, or maybe somebody decides to go to the charter or go to the private school, there's just not enough weight put on what the exposure and what those guys bring to the table, that team. So I wish we could pay more. I mean, I wish I could. I would have be a couple. I think I lost a couple over on that one, but I'm just saying I wish we could pay more or we could get more emphasis, but where does it stop?
It won't.
Bidding war. Me and Dr. Duskin, we're gonna fight across the board. Right? I mean that's just the way it is.
Avery.
Somewhere, somebody, and I don't know if it was at a TAA conference with a keynote speaker, but they mentioned, and I've always remembered it, that when people are hungry, you'll have lots of applicants. I don't have any applicants. I have 8-hour positions open. So I assume people are not hungry yet.
Well, I believe in my heart that when they raised minimum wage and it closed that gap, that's where I saw the biggest effect. Close between I can work 8 hours straight for nearly the same money over here versus this with the split shift and the responsibility and the exposure and I think that had a lot to do with it. I'm not a real bright guy, but it seemed to be where it kind of shifted again. Was the biggest thing where I had people come in and say, hey, I can go over here and work 8 straight and work a second job and make up for anything I lost versus being here for 11, 12 hours and getting 7.5 to 8 hours pay. This other job affords me the opportunity to work a second job. And I think those are the things that we're fighting against. And I don't know how to change it. I don't know that I want to be a state-run thing like some states, transportation, unless they hire me to supervise, and I'm good with it. We can do that. But I really don't want to lose my job either. But, it just seems like there's some magic out there. And
there is. It's just going to take a big culture change in the state to change that, right? You either offer 2 shifts, a morning shift and an afternoon shift, where people don't have to work a split shift. You actually pay drivers what their value should be, so you compete with the private market. But until anybody's willing to do that, it's not going to happen. So we talked about this last time. Is it getting in front of a state legislator? Is it getting in front of the governor? Is it getting in front of the state superintendent to have that conversation to say, like, you guys talk about this. Well, you want to be leaders of change. Let's figure out how to make that happen. But until then, if you're, like you said, if you're only competing with the $15, $12, $13, $14, whatever minimum wage is going to end up being, even private market, right? Brian, you're at $18 an hour or whatever it is. People can go work at Target for full straight through schedule, don't have to carry their certifications, don't have to renew their driver's license every 5 years, don't have to do all these things. Why wouldn't they go work at Target instead of work at, as a bus driver? So,
and that's the problem. It's not raising the rate to, take drivers from Tolleson or take drivers from Levine or Phoenix. The idea it has to be the industry. there aren't going to be more drivers. There are going to be fewer and fewer drivers every year all across the country until the wage comes commensurate with the work that is put into that position.
Yeah, well, like,
And yes, fingerprint clearance cards, CPR, CPI.
There's 7 or 8, 9 certifications the driver has to keep up with every year, every 2 years that are revolving, that it just doesn't, I mean, it doesn't bode well. And quite honestly, with the increase of certifications that they need, we just had this, we had an administrator, it was like, oh, well, they couldn't possibly, they're worth this level, this banding, right? How do you know what a bus driver is doing now versus what they did 25 years ago? You know what I mean? Like, it just, I don't know.
And I can say this though, Jason, one thing I thank you and everyone here, this is like our personal AA meeting as well as any. And it is so good to talk to a group of people that understand. And I thank you all, and I love you all, and thank you. Other than Tommy can go away. Get out of here, Tommy. Tired of you picking on me, Tommy.
He's leaving us, but
we'll go ahead. But I gotta go. I've got another meeting.
We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I thank everybody for being here. We got some good topics for next session. Everybody want to do one more before TAA conference?
Hey, before then, can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
We are looking at hiring a driver, and I'm sorry, a mechanic. And I'm just wondering what, I have my email in here on the chat. If somebody could send me like their job description or something. We don't have a mechanic here.
Yes, I can send you what I've got for a mechanic and a lead if you want.
Please.
Okay.
Is that Kim?
Yep.
Yeah.
So we've got May 21st or May 28th. You guys pick.
21st is last day of school.
Oof. Yeah.
May 14th.
That works.
That probably works.
That works.
And have all of you signed up for TAA yet?
Yes.
I just got my purchase order approved, so I can write my thing.
Perfect.
All righty. So we'll see everybody. I'll send invite out for May 14th. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Be safe.